What's up guys, Seth here, back with another video on Marvel Contest of Champions, and today I'm going to be going over another one of the Apex Coliseum fights, and that is Dazzler. So Dazzler is the second fight in Coliseum, and again, as I went over in the last video when talking about Prowler, she is yet another one of the champions that you're going to have to beat up a bunch to be able to get all of these great rewards. I went over the rewards a little bit in the last video, so if you want to hear me talking about that, then check that out for the Prowler one that's on the channel. And remember to check out the channel as well for the Airwalker and Ebony Maw fights. I'm going to be releasing those over the next couple of days too, to give you an idea of who I use and who I think you should use in those fights also. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss them as well. But anyway, Dazzler. Dazzler is simpler than the Prowler fight, I would say. The nodes, as I went over in the last video, the Coliseum nodes are pretty consistent. You're going to have your cycling health bars, you're going to have your standard Coliseum nodes, and you're going to have the arduous Coliseum, which is basically when if you've cleared 5 health bars or more, the defender's going to start gaining the debuff where you have to heavy attack them in a certain amount of time, or you're going to get put to sleep. And along with that, Dazzler has some specific nodes to her that work alongside her already kind of difficult kit to manage as well. So the first node is always be dazzling. So when Dazzler's tempo reaches 100, it's reset to 0. What does that mean? So tempo is basically built into Dazzler's kit. And what it does is it allows her the ability to mess you up even more. So when you build 10 tempo, Dazzler gains the ability to do a dazzling dash. And what that means is that when Dazzler dashes forwards from outside striking distance or during special attacks, she's going to inflict you with a falter. What that falter means is that you are going to then miss hitting Dazzler. It also means that if you block that dazzling dash hit, you're going to get a passive stun on you, and that's going to gain her more opportunities to be able to hit into you as well and drain your health even faster as well. The tempo also builds into her special attack abilities. With the special attack 1, if you end up getting hit with the final hit, you get an energy vulnerability passive inflicted on you for 30 seconds as well. Then on the special attack 2, it also feeds into that also, where if the opponent is suffering from a personal energy vulnerability from the last hit of that special 1, her special 2 is also going to be unblockable. And it is not a very fun special attack to try to evade. So that's how it's sort of fitting into Dazzler's kit. The remaining nodes is also Obstinate Charge, which is basically also enhancing that dazzling dash. Obstinate pretty much means that when the defender is dashing in at you, they are stun immune for the dash and they often need to be re-parried. So what that means is when you parry, the initial tap that you do on your block to be able to parry an opponent won't inflict a stun. And so with that in mind, you parry again when you're anticipating their light attack to then follow into the combo, and that hit will instead stun. Obviously, it makes it quite difficult when you've got 2 separate abilities that are impacting dashing attacks. So you've already got the dazzling dash, but then you also have the obstinate charge. It makes it a bit difficult to get openings through parries instead, because you're normally wanting to avoid any of the dash attacks that Dazzler is doing. Then the other 2 nodes are relating to the root. So if you're near Dazzler for 5 seconds, then you're going to be passively rooted too. That can be a bit tricky around Dazzler's special attacks, because if you are blocking the special attacks or you're trying to parry the special attacks, you're going to be quite close to her, especially on the special 1. That time is going to be ticking down to the point where you've got to get out of there or you're going to get rooted. And then you also, in the root through the stay a while and listen node, you're going to be also special locked. So in other instances where root might not be that impactful if you've got a bar of power, because you can use a special attack to be able to escape that root and break free of that, you can't do that in this fight because you can't activate your special attack. You're stuck in the root until it runs out over that 4 seconds. The only thing to mention is just around the special attacks. She's got the special attack 3 and it deals 100% increased damage. You're pretty much going to die in this fight if you get hit with the special 3 unless you have a ton of armor up abilities on you. And then Dazzler is also more likely to activate the special 2, same as the Prowler fight in the last round as well. As much as that might sound like a lot, it's pretty straightforward, the Dazzler fight. Compared to Prowler, where you've got a lot of nodes sort of working together, you're having to monitor timers on Prowler, you're having to monitor timers on yourself, you're having to compare abilities and remember the symbols of the abilities. Dazzler's quite straightforward. If you can understand Dazzler's special attacks, you get used to either avoiding or blocking or parrying her special attacks, it can be pretty straightforward. It's still a difficult fight. You can see out of all the fights, I've gotten the lowest amount of bars on Dazzler, purely because you're going to be taking so much block damage. And as much as you can try and avoid that with certain matchups like Iron Man or Nimrod or whoever, you're still going to find that you're going to take a lot of damage. That's going to chip you down. And if you get clipped at the wrong time, or potentially when she's unblockable, you're pretty much dead because she's going to gain a bunch of prowesses as well through her standard kit. So before I go into the champions that I'm recommending, what is the rest of the world doing? So in this fight currently, same thing again, you've got your global attempts, your global health bars cleared, and your proficiency. Your proficiency is basically the average amount of bars that you're clearing with these specific champions as well. You can see that Jack-O-Lantern and Bastion have basically sat at the top of the list the entire time the Coliseum's been open. Bastion's a really popular matchup for this. You can see Jack is typically doing a little bit more damage through 3.8 bars proficiency, but both pretty much have over 40% of the market share just based off of those two champions. You can see it very, very quickly peters off and people get quite creative with their other options and counters later down the list. As per usual, there's a very, very small but passionate Guillotine 2099 community as well, with her only having 1% of the global attempts, but has the highest amount of proficiency out of the entire list as well. So the Guillotine 2099 fans go crazy on this fight, as they normally do with most fights that you can use Guillotine for. But outside of that, you're sort of looking at a lot of champions that are on average getting like the 3 to 5 bars. So the first champion I'm going to go over is Iron Man. Now, Iron Man is one of the current Metamorphosis champions. A lot of people are going to be getting him ranked up and ascended with all of the rank up gems at the moment and all of the resources that are going towards Iron Man. A lot of people probably also already have him ranked up for raids events and everything like that too, because he is a very consistently good, reliable, high survivability and high damage champion. Now, I am not Iron Man proficient in any regard. I very, very rarely use Iron Man. I'm not very passionate about him as a champion, but I do appreciate when an old champion gets a really, really solid buff, and Iron Man is one of those champions. So what makes Iron Man good for this fight? It is pretty much exclusively the high damage pockets are great. They're really handy, but it's mainly the armor up. In Iron Man's kit, he's going to gain armor up buffs on parries and also parries of special attacks. If you're used to parrying Dazzler's special attack, you pretty much gain a ton of armor ups just off of that. And through the majority of the fight, you're going to maintain your 20 armor ups, which is going to increase your ability for damage, but it's also going to increase your ability for survivability. So if you do slip up, if you do end up taking a lot of blocked damage, or you do end up even taking a special 3, which I ended up taking in this fight as well, you're going to be fine. It's very easy to survive in this fight when you have such a high amount of armor as Iron Man. Now, Iron Man is a bit of a slower fight, but it's a slow fight that I think still doesn't have a very high skill threshold. So a lot of other fights that require a lot of other ramping abilities, like Null in certain matchups or Guillotine 2099, you're going to find the ceiling's really, really high, but the floor is also pretty difficult to get to as well. That's not the case with Iron Man though. He's a very straightforward champion. So in Iron Man's kit, to be able to gain a ton of damage, you need to activate your arc reactor. How you do that is through gaining a certain amount of armor ups. So your arc reactor is going to automatically activate once you reach 12 armor ups. And when it expires, when it gets down to 0 arc reactor points, it's going to consume another 12 armor ups if you have those 12 armor ups to maintain that damage as well. Once you have your arc reactor up, you pretty much just want to maintain your special 1, because the special 2 is handy in some fights where you're not blocking as many attacks and you're not gaining as many armor ups through alternative options, because through the special 2, you're going to gain 5 armor up buffs. But because you're gaining them through these other ways and you're gaining them from blocking so many special attacks from Dazzler, you're going to find that you don't need the special 2 to gain the armor ups, and you can just rely on the special 1 to apply those armor breaks and further increase your damage against Dazzler as well. Another handy thing in Iron Man's kit is that against mutants, he has the ability to block unblockable special attacks. That means that you pretty much don't have to worry about Dazzler's tempo. You can pretty much completely ignore the risk of her getting an unblockable special 2 because you can just block the whole thing. So as I said, Iron Man, very safe option, very reliable option. You're going to be able to clear through plenty of bars with Iron Man. You're not going to have to learn all of the niche abilities and different things about his kit. If you just go in there, try to parry as many special attacks as you can to be able to gain the armor up buffs to then fire off your special 1 and maintain that arc reactor, you're going to find that you're dealing a big amount of damage without really having to spend too much time in the fight. As much as I appreciate Bastion, and I know that he's a very popular matchup for this fight, Iron Man has a bit more of a quick jump up to decent damage that's very, very survivable for the average player. Now, the next champion I'm going to talk about is a very popular champion on my channel, and it's one of the most popular champions for this fight as well, and that is Jack-O-Lantern. Now, Jack-O-Lantern is, you will always hear from me, an incredible champion. But for this fight, he's a great champion. I wouldn't say he is up there with the best of them, but Jack-o'-lantern provides a very, very quick way of clearing a few bars and just getting the fight done. He doesn't have the same degree of survivability as other champions do. He doesn't have the same degree of ramp up as other champions do, but he has the ability to get in, and as long as you throw off a few special twos, you're going to have cleared 5 or 6 bars against Dazzler. And that is 5 or 6 bars done out of 80 that you can just regularly go back in, clear another chunk of bars, go back in, clear another chunk of bars, and you can just cycle through that. Now, Jack definitely can get higher than the 5 and 6 bars. Jack just doesn't have the ramp of other champions. He's great out the gate. He has really, really high damage at the gate, especially off of that special 2 attack. He doesn't have a whole lot of abilities that are helping you in this Dazzler fight though, other than the Bulwark passive that he has on blocking, so it increases his block proficiency. So it's going to be great for blocking attacks there, but doesn't have the abilities that Iron Man has of being able to block the unblockable attacks. It's mainly just the quick and dirty method of getting in there, getting some damage in, and getting out. And Jack is the epitome of that sort of champion. So if you're wanting an easy option, I think Jack is definitely the way to go. If you don't really want to learn too much about this fight, you just want to go in there, clear some bars, and get out, he's a really, really solid choice. If you don't know anything about Jack-o'-lantern, how does he work? So Jack-o'-lantern, if you haven't noticed from the gameplay, doesn't crit at all. So instead of critting as a champion, he instead inflicts plasma damage against mutants, or normally inflicts a chunk of incinerate damage instead of having a critical hit. Now, when Jack would have gained a critical hit, he instead gains one of those little pumpkin charges in the corner, the little gray ones. And then when he gets to 3 of those, he gains an inflamed passive. The inflamed passives stack up to I think 12 or 15 or something like that. It's basically going to increase the damage of those chunks of incinerate damage on the hits that Jack would have critted. Off of Jack's heavy attack, you can also gain a precision passive, which is going to mean that all of your hits are critical. You can also chain that into a special attack, and it'll pause during the special attacks to be able to chain into that and deal some more damage. So if you can chain into that, perfect. If you can't, it's still going to be very, very high damage regardless. Jack's special 2 is really where he gets all of his damage. He's going to drop 2 big pumpkin bombs, and that's going to inflict the defender with a bunch of incinerate and poison that is just going to melt them. I guess other than that, the Bulwark passive is basically just going to increase his block proficiency. It's going to mean that he can tank a lot more hits on the block than the average champion, especially on such a high block penetration champion as Dazzler. As I said, doesn't have an ability around the unblockable special attacks. You're still going to get in some solid damage before you're at that point where you're potentially taking unblockable special 2s. And if you stick to Dazzler special 1, that doesn't go unblockable, so you're good there either way. But yeah, Jack, definitely a solid option. You'll never hear me talking bad about Jack, and he definitely deserves a spot high up on the list of the global fights, and he definitely deserves a spot in the list of champions that you should be bringing in as well. Now, the last champion I'm going to go over is the champion I ended up using and getting my best run with, and that is Nimrod. Nimrod, the absolute mutant destroyer. So, if you're not familiar with Nimrod, he basically has 2 parts to his kit. So you can see, as I'm parrying, I'm gaining armor up buffs, and I'm also gaining that secondary blue charge. So that's your Titan charge. And then you can also see when you hit the defender with your 4th light attack, you're going to change that to a BLITZ charge, or it can also change just through the timer that is built into Nimrod's kit as well. The way you should be thinking about these abilities is pretty much that the blue Titan charge is your defense, and the orange BLITZ charge is your offense. So for blocking special attacks, you want to try to be in your Titan stage. You want to try to get to that. You want to be able to do that so you can block the attacks and gain your armor up buffs through that as well by blocking and parrying Dazzler's special 1s. Then when you're ready to throw off a special 2 to be able to unleash all of this shock damage, you want to try and cycle through to your BLITZ stage. And that's where you're going to do your either 4th light attack or let it roll over naturally, and you're going to launch your special 2. You want to do this when you have 10 armor up buffs or 10 Titan or BLITZ charges, whatever you're up to at that point. But you want to try to have 10 of them. When you've got 10 of them, you're going to enter your 3rd phase, which is where all of your big damage is going to come out. The 3rd phase is your eradicate phase. Now, the eradicate phase can be quite difficult to maintain, but it can be maintained. Your eradicate phase, it's similar to the Titan and to the BLITZ phase where you're trying to get to 10, but in this one, if you're in eradicate and you get to 10 charges by gaining 10 armor ups based off of parries, you're going to, instead of changing cycles, you're just going to refresh your eradicate. When you're in your eradicate phase, it's basically the best of both worlds. You're going to gain the effects of both the Titan phase and the BLITZ phase. So you can parry your special attacks to gain armor ups. You're pretty much the God mode of Nimrod's kit. If you can maintain that, you can maintain God mode the entire time, but it can get quite difficult to maintain the entire time as well, because Dazzler's a bit tricky around that, and Nimrod doesn't really have anything built in to deal with her falter or the stun immunity that she has on that dash attack as well. He has a bit of a protective barrier there as well, where he can also gain an unstoppable attack based on his heavies. That unstoppable ability has saved me a fair bit in fights too, and it just gives you an extra opportunity to be able to escape if you are about to be hit or are about to be struck by Dazzler. He's also going to gain that on this special attack too, so if you do throw it at the wrong time, at least she can't punish you as badly as she would if you were completely open without unstoppable as well. And outside of that, that's pretty much the aim of the game with Nimrod, is just parrying the special attacks, building your armor up buffs, trying to maintain it in the eradicate mode as best as you can to be able to maintain that really, really high special 2 damage. Without really being a very skilled Nimrod player, you can pretty consistently gain like the 10 bars or so. Obviously, I do have a rank 4 Nimrod. Not everyone's going to have a rank 4 Nimrod, but I think even with a lower rank, it is pretty achievable to get a decent amount of damage in with him. In a similar situation to Jack, even if you can build up a decent bit and cycle a few special 2s, just the shock damage off of that is going to do loads of damage and going to get you heaps of progress into the total 80 bars that you need to take on Dazzler as well. Now, I don't have any footage of my big run with Nimrod. I don't have any other crazy runs to be able to put up on the channel, but potentially I'll do some more practice on this one. Maybe I'll get higher bars, and if so, I'll put it up there and I'll link it in the description as well, so you can check that out also. Apart from that, that's going to do it. I hope that you've gotten something useful from this. I hope that you've figured out a counter that maybe you weren't considering from the list of global ones. Maybe you've learned some tips about the fight that you might find useful, or maybe you've learned some tips about each champion's kit that I've talked about today as well. If you found some counters that I didn't, leave it in the comments below. If you use some of the counters that I recommended, leave it in there below as well and tell me what you think. And remember to subscribe so you see when the Airwalker and the Ebony Maw videos come out, and go back and check out the Prowler one if you haven't yet too, because I think there's some good tips in there for you as well. But in the meantime, guys, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.